This is an example of how to calculate duration in Motif. We're working with the Motiflix dataset, which mimics the kind of events you'd see with a video streaming service. Today we're looking for the time it takes to get from a search to watching a video on the streaming service. So I'm going to start with a match on search. And then from there, the user can do anything or nothing before they get to that watch start. Now, over here we're highlighting the sequences that contain that pattern. So here we see search page, anything or nothing in between, followed by watch start. This page shows example sequences, and a lot of the query language here, Sol, is about defining the sequences so that I can analyze them with the other tabs. So we're going to click over to outcome. Watch start is automatically our outcome because it's the last match. And we're going to see some basic insights about the sequences that we've matched. So within 5 minutes, 54% of users get to watch start who perform a search. So this data is based on the start of the sequence, going to watch start, and I can see that within 5 minutes, 54% get to watch start. If I click back over to examples, I notice that between some of the searches and watch start, people stop at other pages. So this user is going to the home page or the favorites page. So maybe these don't truly represent the search to watch behavior. These people did a search, but then they went and used a different means to actually get to the video they want to watch. So I want to remove those, or at least don't count those as matches. I don't remember the syntax for that, so I'm going to hit slash, and that pulls up our recipes. And I'm going to say sequences without events in between. Okay. So find sequences without specific events, that's a recipe. It's ready to go. If I didn't trust that, I could generate a recipe with Copilot, which is really strong. This looks right. So I'm going to go modify this to go from search page to watch start. And this is the syntax for do not match. So this caret, and I say I don't want the user to go to the home page or the favorites page, and also the top movies page. I'm going to clean up this other match. Great. So now I'm only matching cases where search is followed by watch start without home page, favorites, or top movies in between. Let's go back to outcome and see how that affected our results. Okay, so over here, within 5 minutes now, only 46% are getting to success. So before this was a little higher. Perhaps those successes were coming from people going to the home page or favorites rather than getting that from search. When it's more purely search, like we have it now, the success rate drops within 5 minutes. I noticed something else in the Examples tab, which is that right now we're conducting our analysis at the user level. Each sequence relates to a single actor. So this is the lifetime of a user's behavior. So when we do a match, we're only taking the first time that this pattern matches for a given user. That doesn't seem like the right way to conduct this analysis. So another approach might be to sessionize the data so that we're looking at every session and then looking at the sessions that include this behavior of search followed by watch start. Again, I don't remember the syntax, so I'm just going to hit slash and type sessionize. Here I'm going to generate the code with our Copilot. All right, looks good. I hit tab. Now, just to explain this code, a match split looks for a match on the pattern described, and then it will split that match into multiple sequences. So it's a way of taking a single sequence and making it multiple sequences. In this case, we're really matching on any event. So these open parentheses with nothing inside mean match anything, any single event. And that session is a tag or label that we've given to anything in that parentheses. And then plus means one or more times. That would match every event and split every event into a separate row. But with this if clause, we're basically creating a criteria for that to happen. And we're saying this will only happen if the -1 index, so the last event of a session, suffix 0, that's the first event of the next session, the duration between those two is greater than an hour. So this basically will only split on events that are separated by greater than an hour, and that'll create our sessions. And that looks good. If I go over to the right here in my examples, I now see this user has a single session, this user has 2 sessions, this user has 11 sessions, and so on. My existing match is already in place and still runs after the split. So let's go back to outcome. So over here, within 5 minutes, we've dropped down to 34% outcome success. So instead of taking every user's first search, which might be their most productive, we're including every session that includes a search. So the more of these searches we're including, the lower we see this success rate drop. All right, I think we're starting to get some insights here. Let's go ahead and save the duration or the time it takes to get from watch start or get from search to watch start. So I'm going to add a dimension to each sequence. So I'm going to set a value called duration and set that equal to the duration from search page to watch start. Now, every time that sequence occurs, I'm going to get this duration value filled with the time between those events. So 2.79 minutes, 34 seconds, a minute, 1.09 minutes. And then in the cases where it doesn't occur, I get a null. I think that's okay because I'm only interested in the cases where this does happen right now. So I'm going to plot this. I'll go over to plot, and I want to create a histogram. So I'm going to say the x-axis is going to be this duration value, and the y-axis is the count. So already we have a histogram. The binning is pretty fine here, so I'm going to actually adjust it. I'm going to hit bin, change this to auto. And now the bins are every 10 seconds, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and so on. And I'm getting the counts right now in each bin, which isn't great. I actually want to normalize that to understand within my population. So on count star here, I'm going to hit normalize, and I'm going to normalize by the percentage of all without null values. I only want to include those that have a calculated duration. All right, great. So now what we see is the majority of cases where someone does a search, they end up doing a watch start within 30 to 40 seconds. In fact, 43.1% of sessions get there within 30 to 40 seconds. And then there's kind of a long tail after that. And then there's this interesting second peak that we might want to dig into to understand what's happening in this case. Okay, that's our duration. We did a few things today. We did a simple match between search page and watch start. And then we learned how to eliminate matches that contained certain events in between. We sessionized the data, so we knew that our unit of analysis was at the session level and not the user level. And then we added this value called duration to each sequence, and then we plotted the result.